Love x Revenge brings you powerful stories about unexpected kindness, second chances, and the moments when life quietly repays those who choose compassion over pride. Snow had been falling since early afternoon, covering the city streets in a thick white blanket. Christmas Eve was supposed to be magical, but for many people, it had turned into a day of chaos. Traffic crawled along icy roads, engines struggled in the cold, and frustrated drivers honked impatiently. On the edge of downtown, a sleek black SUV suddenly sputtered and died. Inside the car sat Emily Carter, the CEO of a fast-growing tech company. Her hair was tied back neatly, her coat expensive but practical, and her expression tired. She glanced at the dashboard again. Dead. She sighed heavily. Not today, please not today. Emily was already late to pick up her 6-year-old daughter Lily from a Christmas event at school. The snowstorm had slowed everything down, and now her car had completely failed. She stepped out of the SUV, the freezing wind biting her cheeks immediately. Around her, most shops had already closed for the holiday. Except one. Across the street stood a small auto repair shop with a flickering sign that read, Mike's Auto Garage. The lights inside were still on. Emily hesitated. The place looked old, the kind of garage that smelled like oil and hard work. But she had no choice. She crossed the snowy street and pushed open the metal door. A bell jingled overhead. Inside, the warm air smelled of grease, metal, and coffee. Tools hung neatly along the walls, and a half-repaired pickup truck sat in the center of the garage. A man in his mid-30s looked up from under the hood. He wiped his hands with a rag and smiled politely. Evening. Shops technically closed, but since you're already here, how can I help? Emily felt slightly embarrassed. My car just died outside. I know it's Christmas Eve, and you're probably closing, but I really need help. The man glanced toward the street through the window. Black SUV. Yes. He nodded. Give me 5 minutes. Emily blinked. You'll look at it? Of course. He grabbed his jacket and toolbox without hesitation. Outside, snowflakes landed on his dark hair as he popped open the SUV's hood. Emily stood beside him, watching nervously. Is it bad? She asked. He checked the battery connections and wiring carefully. Not terrible, he said calmly. Looks like your alternator belt snapped. Emily frowned. Which means, your engine can't recharge the battery. She sighed. So the car's stuck, for now. Her shoulders dropped in disappointment. I have to pick up my daughter. She's waiting for me. The mechanic looked at her for a moment, thinking. Then he closed the hood. Give me 20 minutes. Emily blinked again. You have the part. He grinned slightly. I've got something that'll work. Back inside the garage, he worked quickly and confidently. Emily noticed how focused he was, like someone who truly loved fixing things. While he worked, she looked around the small shop. There were children's drawings taped to the wall. Crayon pictures of cars, snowmen, and a stick figure family. She pointed to them. Your kids. He nodded proudly. 2 of them. Ben is 8, and Sophie is 5. Emily smiled softly. Cute. He tightened the final bolt and wiped his hands again. Let's test it. They walked back outside. He turned the key. The SUV engine roared to life smoothly. Emily's face lit up in relief. Oh, thank goodness. She turned to him immediately. You just saved my Christmas. He shrugged casually. Happy to help. Emily reached for her purse. How much do I owe you? He hesitated. Honestly, it was just a spare belt I had lying around. Call it a Christmas favor. Emily frowned slightly. That doesn't seem fair. He laughed. It's Christmas Eve. Go pick up your daughter. She paused, studying him carefully. You're sure? Absolutely. Emily smiled warmly. Thank you. What's your name? Mike. Well, Mike, I won't forget this. He gave a friendly wave as she drove away. Inside the warm SUV, Emily felt something unusual. Gratitude. In her world of boardrooms and contracts, people rarely helped without expecting something in return. But this mechanic had simply helped. No questions. No charge. Just kindness. Across town, Mike locked up his garage a little later than usual. When he got home, his kids ran toward him. Dad, did Santa come yet? Sophie asked excitedly. Mike laughed. Not yet, kiddo. He waits until everyone's asleep. His wife Sarah kissed his cheek. You worked late again. Someone needed help. She smiled softly. That's who you are. But later that night, after the kids slept, Sarah spoke quietly. Mike, the landlord called again today. He nodded slowly. I know. They were 3 months behind on rent for the garage. Business had been slow all year. Sarah squeezed his hand. We'll figure it out. He smiled, though worry hid behind his eyes. We always do. The next morning, Christmas Day arrived bright and cold. Emily Carter sat in her modern glass house, watching Lily tear open presents with joyful screams. But even in the warm living room, Emily kept thinking about the mechanic. Mike, his garage, those drawings on the wall. Later that afternoon, she opened her laptop and began searching. Mike's auto garage. It didn't take long to find information. A small family business, operating for 10 years, struggling financially. Emily leaned back in her chair, thinking. Then she picked up her phone. Jessica, she said to her assistant. I need you to find out who owns Mike's auto garage on Jefferson Street. A pause. Yes, today. The next week, Mike arrived at his garage early as usual. But something was strange. A black luxury car was parked outside. He stepped inside cautiously. Emily Carter stood near the tool bench, dressed in a long winter coat. Mike blinked in surprise. You, she smiled. Hi Mike, what are you doing here? She looked around the garage. I came to return the favor. He frowned slightly. You already thanked me. Yes, but you didn't let me pay. He shrugged. It was Christmas. Emily walked slowly around the shop. You know, my company is launching a new electric delivery fleet next year. Mike listened, confused. And we need a maintenance partner, she continued. He crossed his arms. Okay. Emily looked directly at him. I want that partner to be you. Mike stared at her in disbelief. Me? Yes. He laughed nervously. This place is tiny. I can't handle a corporate fleet. Emily smiled knowingly. You could, with help. She handed him a folder. Inside were documents, expansion plans, new equipment funding, training programs. Mike flipped through the pages slowly. This is huge. It's an investment, Emily explained. Your garage becomes our official service center. He looked stunned. But why me? Emily answered quietly. Because when I was stuck in the snow, you helped a stranger without asking for anything. Mike looked down at the papers again. You saved my Christmas, she said. Now let me help secure your future. His voice cracked slightly. You're serious? Completely. Mike leaned against the workbench, overwhelmed. You have no idea what this means for my family. Emily smiled gently. I think I do. He shook her hand firmly. Deal. 6 months later, Mike's auto garage looked completely different. New lifts, new tools, more mechanics. Business was booming, but one thing never changed. The children's drawings still hung proudly on the wall. And every Christmas Eve, Mike stayed open a little later than usual. Just in case someone out there needed help. Because sometimes the smallest act of kindness doesn't just save a holiday. Sometimes it builds a future.